pleasure to be here, and I'd like to congratulate the planning group for this Mobility 21 conference. It's been very impressive, and I'm learning a lot, and I hope to share some of the learning that we've had in Minnesota with regard to P3s. I'd like to talk about 3 P3 models that we've used, some more successful than others, but I think you can learn from failures as well as successes. So I'd like to explore those with you. The first one I want to talk about is a toll model. The public-private partnership was authorized in the 1993 legislation in Minnesota, allowing us to partner with the private sector to develop toll roads. Now, we were a state that had no history of tolls to speak of, but the legislature saw the need, the pressure was there with increasing congestion and funding issues looming. They said, let's pursue this. So we did, and we developed this program that we call Transmart. Under Transmart, we asked the public to nominate to us potential P3 projects as toll projects. We received 5 proposals under that process worth over $2.5 billion. One of those was negotiated to a development agreement. But within that toll legislation, there was also a local veto provision, and the project ultimately was vetoed by the locals, which could not be, there was no recourse, there was no appeal of that veto. So that really killed the project, and to a very large degree really has tainted the whole environment for tolling proposals in Minnesota. So the lessons learned from that, first of all, in my opinion, I think the legislation is flawed. I don't think we're going to get additional toll road proposals from the private sector in Minnesota with that veto provision still in the law. We did not have the executive level or gubernatorial level support that we needed for tolls to move forward, in my estimation. We also didn't have a strong policy that said, what do we do with other projects if we have to match toll project with state money? How do projects move about in the STIP and TIP? And finally, I don't think we established trust. I think we overreached. We were learning, and it was one of those learning steps. So I think we as an agency needed to do a better job of communication. The second project was a very interesting project. We called it Connecting Minnesota. And I disagree with the speaker this morning that said we don't really need fiber optics. We don't need connection in rural parts of the state. Well, in Minnesota, we definitely do. We're seeing a lot of continued movement from smaller communities into the upstate area. And one of the things that we feel is very important is to be able to have the opportunity for those citizens who want to live there to be able to access higher paying jobs, which may be possible through connections like fiber optics. We were able to complete about 200 miles of fiber optics through a public-private partnership on our freeway rights-of-way that had a value of over $56 million to the state alone. The private sector had access to our right-of-way. They installed dark fiber for us, and in bartering or in trade of that, they provided us with dark fiber, which has that value. Under this public-private partnership, we had strong governor support, but we did have a lot of resistance from the telecom industry, which saw it as anti-competitive. But it has tremendous strategic value for the state. Now, finally, the third PPP that I want to talk to you about is a little bit different animal. It's a design, build, operate P3, and it started with our I-394 Mid-Pass project, our Hot Lane project. That's an 11-mile long facility. Thanks to SR 91 and I-15, it kind of led the way for us and kind of gave us the model for developing hot lanes. And so we owe a debt of gratitude to California for that. He did introduce a number of innovations in terms of technology and operations that have also moved the bar a little bit further. As I said, it was a design, build, operate, maintain project. It has improved performance of the facility, both in the hot lane, HOV lane, which was underperforming. Drivers feel safe; they're getting value for their money, and the vendor has a benefit in this project too, in that they were first in our market in the Twin Cities, which for subsequent work means something. They've got an investment already, they know the area, they're familiar with it, they have technology installed. But they also had exposure nationally with regard to the innovations that were being introduced. So it continues to be a very successful project, which has actually led to our second hot lane project, which is 35W. Again, the lessons learned, well, if I could step back for 1 second, what got us to the point of acceptance of this kind of partnership and conversion of or adoption of any sort of a tolling model in Minnesota was a recognition that we really hadn't come to terms with that in the region. And so we stepped back for a number of years, and we conducted a process through what we call the Value Pricing Task Force, which looked at the question, the policy of does pricing fit in Minnesota at all? Not any specific project, but is it something that we should adopt at all? And the conclusion of the panel after a couple of years of work with them was, we don't like it, but it's something we need to do. And so that led directly to legislation that supported the development of hot lanes and ultimately implementation. We also had the governor's strong support on this, which was really important. Another lesson learned is that market pricing works. We're able to control the demand on that facility. It's free-flowing. Transit carpools still get value. The facility never breaks down. And so that's very, very important. We're pleased with that, and it really kind of led the way for us to move into this 35W project as well. Now, we took another step on MidPass 394, and we said, you know, what we've done under the hot lane is we've preserved capacity for one lane. We've added the opportunity for toll-paying vehicles to buy into it. But what are we going to do about the long-term preservation of performance in that lane? And through pricing, we can continue to virtually guarantee performance on the hot lane, but the other lanes are going to get congested. And so we stepped back and we said, you know, we really have to look at in terms of what other enhancements that we can bring to the table in terms of design and operations for the corridor. And we came to the conclusion that what we really need to do is work with the communities under a public partnership to help build support for land uses that support density, that support transit in the corridor. And that also leads me to a public-private partnership in that we're willing to work with some of the landowners in the corridor as they redevelop their properties in that area to higher density, to support transit, to preserve access and performance in the corridor for the long run. So, the lessons learned. Well, first of all, the agencies, and including ourselves in particular, we must be more transparent, and we have to earn the public trust. That's clear. I think we failed on our 394 the Transmart project. We weren't prepared. We were green in that area. We needed to earn the public trust, which leads me to that point about moving in an incremental fashion, getting the public ready and more willing to accept that we are ready, prepared, and able to take on a P3 challenge. Political leadership is essential. As I said, having the governor's support was paramount in our P3 projects. We had to do a better job, and we need to do a better job of communicating project objectives. And and that, of course, involves effective outreach and communications. I think it's important in our pricing environment, at least, that when we do a pricing project, that we're clear about how it's going to support transit. And it can be done with P3s and P2s as well. Transparent pricing affects choice. I think we're seeing performance of the 394 pot lane affected by the price that those users are seeing. We're actually seeing carpool formation. We're actually seeing increased ridership in transit because they're getting a price signal that they've never gotten before in that corridor. And so transparent pricing is a very, very good thing. And then finally, nothing succeeds like success. Obviously, success spawns more success, and with the success of the 394 MinPass project, it'll really pave the way for us to develop our second hotlink project on 35W. And with that,